Yeah, Eisner's Don't Lie back at you again, and read an interesting article about, as part of the big, beautiful bullshit, the Republicans want to add a surcharge to wire transfers that go from the United States to any other countries. So basically a tax or surcharge on the money going abroad. Because what they've looked at is the last time that the information was available, because 23 and 24 is not out obviously, but in 2022, $79 billion was sent abroad to various countries. So with that, that's something where they want to be able to get their hands on that money too. So if you are a person who is working hard in the United States and you're sending money to family in another state, or another country, they want to tax you 3.5%. In some cases, they want it to really be higher and be up to 10%, because they don't want you, they want to control what you do with your money. And some people might say, well, we should do that because that money is leaving our economy and it'll never be spent here. Okay, well, if that's the logic you're going to use, why are you allowing American companies to outsource? Why are they able to outsource all their troubleshooting, their technical support, customer service for a variety of companies? I worked at a Fortune 500 company for over 23 years. And when we outsourced, when I started there in 2000, you just saw it get larger and larger, where they started to outsource anything that they possibly could to save a buck. And when management would get mad at us, they would tell us, well, we can hire 3 or 4 of them for the cost that you cost. And that's not specific to the company I was with. That's business in general here, these large corporations. They've decided that, like the factory work, we're going to get it done as cheap as possible so we can maximize our profit. So if you're going to use that same thought process, is that people wiring money overseas is going to affect the U.S. economy because that money never circulates in the U.S., okay, then why do you allow businesses to do it? These corporations employ thousands of workers overseas in these call centers. And when they get paid, that money never has a chance to circulate in the United States, because you're not living in India or the Philippines or Egypt or Mexico City or any of these places where companies do a lot of business at. That money, you're not getting paid over there and then buying American goods. So that money's not circulating back in the U.S. economy. It's circulating where you live. And there might be isolated situations where you are buying certain products, but large scale, that money leaves the U.S. economy, has no chance of recirculating back into it. And then there's no income tax that you're going to pay on that, because somebody in these foreign countries that work for a U.S. business are not paying U.S. taxes. So it goes back to, it's just greed. We want our hand in the cookie jar from any possible option that we can. And when you are collecting additional money and things like that for the government, how is that translating for the U.S. citizens? Because the government, you have enough money. You just have horrible spending. You're not spending it right. You're not being held accountable for the items that you are purchasing with taxpayer funds and all the other funds you take in from the government. Like, I was talking to one of my buddies, and we were talking about some of these large defense corporations that have huge contracts with the U.S. government. The U.S. government doesn't have any money. They make money off taxpayer money and the collection of duties, tariffs, and all kinds of other things that they do. So, as an example, you have a defense contracting company. They sign a $200 billion deal with the United States government. The United States government is going to pay you with taxpayer money and then export those arms to a lot of these other countries, sell those arms, get the revenue from it, and they keep it. They don't refund taxpayers. It's almost like the way a bank works, where a bank makes their money by being able to reinvest your money. And that's why they need to have a certain amount of money that they're not investing that needs to be available for people to withdraw as a certain level of protection. And that's one of the things, as part of what Trump has done is he's gotten rid of basically the watchful eye of some of the protection available for banks, lifted some of the restrictions so they can overextend themselves. That's why a lot of the banks in the last couple of years crashed, is because there was no oversight or less oversight in what they were doing. So they overextended, and when people asked for their money, you didn't have it. So it's the same with the government, where you take in enough money. What are you spending it on? You cut U.S. aid because you said it's too much of a hindrance in the American economy and that we shouldn't have to shelter that burden. Okay, but what you're getting for U.S. aid is you're getting freedom to expand U.S. policy in a lot of places that you were giving U.S. aid to. Places that you were keeping a lot of disease under wraps because you weren't allowing it to spread and expand to make it a global issue. Just the responsibility of being the largest economy and being able to help those that are less fortunate. And then it gave you access to resources in a lot of these places. Because what we're taking from Africa and a lot of these resources, you're not paying a retail rate. You're not paying a fair rate. It's give and take, where when you help out a lot of these other countries, you make them sign over their mineral rights and resources and things like that, just like you did with Ukraine. So you're not doing something for nothing. It's always a give and take with the United States. So if that was your issue with U.S. aid, nobody complains about the billions that you're giving Israel. So, I mean, if the policies are the policies, if it's America first, where's the accountability on how you pick and choose who you think deserves financial assistance? And you're making these decisions based on what you can get back and how you can be bought, especially right now, where there's never been a time in history where the U.S. has been for sale like it is right now under the Trump administration. The level of corruption is unseen, and he's not even trying to hide it, because that's the excuse I heard from a MAGA person. Well, everybody's been corrupt. He's just out in front with his. You think that makes it better? Because even at that point, he on another level. With these meme coins, the profiteering in the White House, the clearly selling pardons, where you get somebody to invest millions in your personal companies that you're involved in or your crypto, and then their government cases go away. It's not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence at all. We know what's going on. It's to the point where his supporters can't even deny what's happening. They just have resolved to the fact that they don't care. Because they think if we're on that side, we don't care. It's like a parent who knows you got a bad kid, but can't nobody tell you nothing, even in the face of all the evidence. That's my baby. And I'm going to love them no matter what. And that's how they are. That's how these people are that support this madman. So, it's crazy where you look at all that's going on right now, and a lot of it has to do with the blatant corruption that you're seeing in Washington right now. There's no way that you are getting a $400 million plane for free just because they like you. Got this ferocious dog. Let me see what he's doing. What you doing, man? He don't like Trump. That's what it is. He don't like Trump. So when I talk about Trump, he get mad and start barking. Tell him what's up, Rocket. Say, what's up. So, you want some attention? I got to hold you now so you'll be quiet. So, like I was saying when I was talking about the plane, is that you're not getting something for nothing. And that's clear from that standpoint. So what did you give the Qataris for that plane? And although they're saying you asked for it, there's something you're getting in exchange for that. And not only are you not going to pay the taxes on that, it is your personal plane, because your plan is to use that plane while you're in office and then send it to the Trump library. So it is your plane. It is not going to be Air Force One. If you're taking it with you, and there's a certain thing called standing. So when you want to sue somebody or file a lawsuit, you need to have standing. I believe that every U.S. citizen that pays taxes, or every tax-paying person in the United States, should sue the government. You should sue the Trump administration for misappropriation of funds, fraud, and anything else you can add up to the way they're spending our money. Because not only are you getting it for free, but they're saying it's going to cost $1 billion or more to retrofit it and bring it up to standards. Because you got to tear it down, make sure that it doesn't have any surveillance items in there that you could spy on the U.S. government, that it doesn't have any mechanisms of sabotage to actually bring the plane down or injure who it's carrying, amongst other things. So it's the way you're spending our money, you should be sued. And I know you don't care about getting sued, because you see that clearly where all these lawsuits that you have going on and charges, you're not really getting penalized. So what would stop you from behaving the way you're behaving when you've gotten away with it your whole life and you continue to get away with it? But I think we all as taxpayers have standing to sue you, and we should, because what you're doing is just absolutely ridiculous. You know, charge the taxpayers $1 billion for a plane that you're going to keep. How is that even legal? We know that it's not legal for you to get the plane, but you control everybody that could basically stop you from doing it, and they're scared because they're spineless jellyfish. But I mean, there's so much going on that it's so out in front. That's what's the most frustrating part about it. And I guess if you didn't know some of what's going on, it would be easier not knowing, but that's a cop-out. You know, knowing is how you prepare. And the general public should be angry at these things. When you look at the cost of living is still going up. Gas is going to most likely skyrocket to highs that even through COVID and some of the other things, gas is going to skyrocket with what's going on with Iran and Israel, especially if Iran does actually try to shut down the Straits of Hormuz. 20% of oil comes through there every day. And if they decide to blockade that, the market is going to go crazy, because when it opens up tomorrow anyway, on Monday, you're going to see a spike in oil prices. And they've threatened to blockade it, but at this point, they still haven't. But that conflict over there is going to have impact globally on the oil economy and the energy sector. And that matters, because by, all accounts, the UN and the International Criminal Courts, they say it was an unprovoked, illegal attack that they consider a terrorist attack since Israel launched on Iran. So Iran does have the right to defend themselves. So this is going to be a conflict that who knows how it's going to end, because everybody in the Middle East does not agree with Israel. There's a lot of people that know that Israel has only been able to do what they've been doing these last 40 years, 50 years, because of U.S. support. Should the U.S. not intervene in this conflict, Israel's going to lose. And conflict is not good for anybody, but at this point, what has Trump allowed to happen at this point? Since the U.S. was clearly involved in the planning of this, because they've released how he vetoed them killing Khamenei. So you had clear knowledge of everything that was going on, and I'm not saying that we assisted in the attack, but you provided logistics, and indirectly, if they're bombing people with F-35s that you gave them, you're still complicit in it. And the destabilization of the Middle East is not good for the world when so much of the world relies on the oil in that region. And that's really the only reason that U.S. policy even matters. They only care about what's going on where there's oil and resources they can get. You've never involved yourself in a war because it was the right thing to do and humanity was being affected by it. You've only gotten involved in stuff that benefits you in the energy sector or with minerals and resources. So I hope that this doesn't turn into World War III. Because yes, Israel is nuclear armed, and if they really look like they're losing, who knows what they'll do. Iran is sitting on a stockpile of thousands of missiles and thousands of drones. So if it gets to a point where, will Israel run out of interceptors before Iran runs out of missiles or drones? What would they do? If it becomes an issue where Iran decides to blockade the strait, what happens to your biggest consumer, China? Who China has already been public about, they don't agree what's going on between Israel and Hamas. And we know where Russia stands on that. So this is a horrible time to have the leadership that we do, where you're supposed to be diffusing situations. Nah, you're inciting them all. You didn't get the war to end in Ukraine and Russia within 24 hours, and you have more conflicts going on. When you dealt with the Houthis, you left out of that sea because you were running out of missiles. Because sustainability in a war, you're talking about the United States is using $2 million missiles to knock down $20,000 drones. So financial sustainability, yeah, we have a lot of weapons, but how long can you do that when you're using $2 million rockets to knock down $20,000 drones? Some cases they say $50,000, but still, when you do the math, Iran sent 100 plus drones into Israel. When the Houthis were firing on Israel, you had U.S. warships out there with the Aegis system that were out there knocking those down for you. In addition to Iron Dome and a lot of the other defense systems that they have, but it's a bad conflict. But what it also shows is that everything Israel has said is a lie, in a sense where you have the ability to target military applications. You just chose not to in Gaza. Because you hit military installations and precision strikes on the leadership of Iran. So why are you not doing that in Gaza? Where you guys are bombing and killing refugees that are going for food. Clearly civilians. And that's a war crime. Military is supposed to fight the military, not civilians. And the excuse that you're saying, well, Hamas is hiding among them, you still got to follow the rules. This is not a situation where I don't like the rules, so I'm not going to follow them. That's not how war is supposed to work. But that's how it works when you have the backing of the biggest military in the world, or excuse me, the most powerful, because personnel-wise, we're not the biggest. But technology-wise, we are. We dominate air power. We got 11 super carriers. So we dominate on technology and air power. Nobody can even come close with that. But should we be intervening in some of these situations? No, but we will, if it benefits us.